What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be talking about what is now one of the best guns to use in Warzone overall, and this is the Fara 83. I'm going to be going through breaking down the stats for Warzone specifically, as well as going into individual attachments to find the perfect class setup, or at least a couple different options of class setups, because it does depend a bit on your playstyle. And diving right into the basic stats of this gun, the really important stats that we want to know about, our maximum damage to the body is 31, and keep in mind, this applies to the entire body, whereas with almost every other assault rifle, you have to hit the upper torso in order to get that maximum damage. With this gun, it's super forgiving. You can shoot him in the leg or the chest, it doesn't matter, you're still dealing 31 damage, which is great. And this also has a very forgiving fire rate of 800 rounds per minute, which is very solid. Now what this means for our time to kill potential is with no armor, it's 225 milliseconds, which is very fast, but everything kills pretty fast with no armor. However, with 3 armor plates and full health, we get a very solid time to kill for an assault rifle at least at 600 milliseconds. This is not the fastest time to kill for an assault rifle, but it is a very competitive time to kill. Now, moving on to something really important with this is the headshot damage. We actually deal 46 damage to the head, which means if we just mix one single headshot in alongside 7 body shots, we can get an 8-shot kill instead of a 9-shot kill against a fully plated enemy. And this gives us a time to kill potential of 525 milliseconds, which is very fast, and this is now going to be very competitive with SMGs. Taking that a step further, if we land 3 headshots mixed in with body shots, we can actually get a 7-shot kill, and this gives us a time to kill potential of 450 milliseconds, which is now going to beat out every SMG in the game. Now, I'm not claiming that every gunfight we're going to be able to land those 3 shots to the head or anything. I just wanted to show off the potential with this gun, and the headshots really help a lot with this gun. Especially when we have a look at our recoil. This gun's got very little recoil after the Season 3 update. You can see here it kicks a little bit to the right, and then it starts cutting back to the left, all while kicking a little bit upward. But in all, there's not a ton of recoil with this. It's very, very controllable recoil. You honestly don't even really need to use a grip attachment, but we'll look at those in a little bit. And this means that a lot of close to mid-range situations, it's absolutely viable to be hitting at least 1 headshot, and in some cases, 3 headshots mixed in with body shots. But after that, I wanted to look at range, and at some point the range on this gun was buffed. Previously, I had a value of 23 meters, but I have since retested this in Season 3, and it is 26 meters now. And our bullet velocity is 600 meters per second, which is standard for assault rifles. So overall, even just looking at the base stats with no attachments equipped, this gun really stands out in Warzone. This is a very accurate and versatile gun that kills quite quickly. Now, let's start diving into the individual attachments, and the first thing for the muzzle attachments, 99% of the time, you'll just want to run the GRU suppressor. This is just a given for almost every Cold War gun in the game, either the GRU or agency suppressor, because it keeps you off the radar, which is extremely important in Warzone, and it boosts your bullet velocity, your recoil control, and your damage range a bit. So it's just a no-brainer, especially with this gun. We're using the GRU suppressor. Next up, let's get into the barrels, and the primary stats we want to be looking at in Warzone for barrels are always going to be bullet velocity and range. But primarily bullet velocity, especially if we're looking for longer range guns, which this can be used at longer ranges very effectively. With this, you can see here, the Contour barrel decreases our bullet velocity, so stay far away from that. The Liberator barrel gives us the best boost at 930 meters per second. And the Spetsnaz RPK, the final barrel, this does give us a bit of a boost to our bullet velocity, but not quite as much as we see with the Liberator barrel. So with my longer range build, I'm definitely going with the Liberator barrel just because bullet velocity is so important for really long ranges. Moving on to the next attachment slot, I wanted to have a look at the underbarrel grips, and the primary reason that you'll use an underbarrel grip in Warzone is for recoil. And like I said earlier, the base version of this gun already has a great recoil profile, and I would say you don't necessarily need grip attachments. However, if we are trying to maximize our accuracy, the grip attachments can help a little bit, as we can see here. The first thing I noticed when comparing the grips that impact recoil to the base recoil pattern is at first glance, there's not that much of a difference, especially when we look at the total magnitude of the recoil. It's about the same. However, the main thing to focus on here is that initial recoil to the right. This is what's going to throw you off more than anything while using the Fara. It's not really that vertical recoil, it's the horizontal recoil. And I added a little scale here, just measuring that initial deflection to the right from your initial point of aim. And when we look at this, the standard Spetsnaz grip, this is the one that's going to help us the most with this initial recoil. And therefore, this is the grip that I'd recommend using if you're trying to make the Fara as accurate as possible. And with the primary build that I want to make with this gun, that's what I'm going for, is maximum accuracy, and therefore I will be using the Spetsnaz barrel in this case. But in other cases, I may end up swapping this out for something else, depending on the purpose of the build. Now, let's move on to the magazine attachments because we're almost always going to be using a magazine attachment for Warzone. It really pays to have a high magazine capacity. And the main focus of this is obviously going to be on the highest capacity magazines, which in the case of the Fara 83, it's stated as a 50 round mag in game. However, you actually get 60 round mags with both of these. And when we look at the aim down sight time, both of these magazine attachments will be hurting our aim down sight time. However, the standard 60 round mag, not the speed mag, this one doesn't hurt our aim down sight time as much as the 60 round speed mag does. Additionally, with the base 60 round mag, we get roughly the same reload time as without using any magazine attachments at all, and this is a very reasonable reload time. It's not nearly as fast as the 60 round speed mag, but that's okay in my opinion. I would much rather focus on aim down sight time than reload time, and therefore we're going with the standard 60 round mag. And this just leaves us with one extra attachment slot. And if I'm going for a long range build, which I've been doing so far, we're going to want an optic on this. The iron sights on the Fara 83, they're usable, but they're not great in my opinion. And therefore, I would recommend using an optic if you're using this for longer ranges. And that really does just come down to preference. You might want a 3x optic on there, you might want a standard red dot on there, or you might want some kind of a variable zoom optic. It's really up to you at this point. But I would recommend using an optic on this if you're going for long-range engagements. And that's where this particular build will shine. I would recommend pairing this with an SMG for close quarters because, well, you can get a decent time to kill, especially if you're mixing in headshots in close quarters. This doesn't have really fast handling or aim down sight stray speed, and if you're using a high zoom optic, that can also throw you off in close quarter situations. So yeah, like I said, I would pair this particular one with an SMG. But now let's look at an alternative, a different way to run the Fara for a more aggressive playstyle, and with this one, I wouldn't necessarily pair it with an SMG either because it holds its own just fine in close quarter situations. With this particular one, we're still using the GRU suppressor because that's kind of a given, like I said, and we're also using the standard 50 round magazine that's actually a 60 round magazine. However, our barrel is changed up here. We're going to be using the last barrel that we unlocked, the Spetsnaz RPK barrel, and the primary reason for this is we still get a bullet velocity boost, which is nice, but this also helps with our aim walking movement speed. And when it comes to close quarters fights, it really pays to be able to strafe back and forth very quickly, and this is also why we're going to be using the KGB skeletal stock. Now, I did a little bit of testing with the skeletal stock versus the Raider stock, and when it comes to our aim down sight movement speed, we get the same aim down sight movement speed with either of these when we're not firing the gun. However, when firing the gun, the KGB skeletal stock will allow us to strafe even faster than the Raider stock. And this is going to make you a very hard target to track and shoot accurately when you're able to strafe back and forth this quickly. So that's why I decided to go with the skeletal stock combined with the RPK barrel. However, the big downside of using the RPK barrel is this does increase your recoil a bit. And therefore, I'm still going to be sticking with the Spetsnaz grip for my underbarrel attachment because it's simply the best attachment for helping with recoil. So with this build right here, I wouldn't recommend stretching to super long ranges. I probably wouldn't challenge a fight beyond about 50 meters with this particular setup. But if you manage to keep yourself within about 50 meters, this gun is very versatile and very competitive. Like I said, if you mix headshots in, you can be very competitive with SMGs at really close quarters. And then when it comes to mid-range, you're going to be dominating SMGs, and you're going to be better than a lot of assault rifles as well. And yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for today's video. Those are a couple different ways that you can run the Fara. Of course, you could go for a happy middle ground as well. You could mix some attachments up depending on your playstyle and stuff. But these are just a couple setups that I find to be great. And I absolutely feel that this is a meta weapon that is extremely powerful and quite versatile in Warzone. Of course, that is just my opinion of this gun. I'd like to know what you guys are thinking in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me? Do you think the Fara 83 is now one of the best guns in Warzone? Or do you think I'm overhyping it a bit and it's not quite as good as I say? Just let me know those thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.